This is the Why the Last Man podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're talking about Why the Last Man, episode 1, The Day Before.
Mom and Dad still pay your rent, right?
No. Yeah, sometimes if I'm, low on cash.
You don't know what you want to do with your life.
I'm an escape artist.
Jesus, Yorick. Beth loves you for some reason, but this ends badly, I promise you.
Oh, no. I'm not looking for your blessing.
You can't afford cheese, but you want to marry your girlfriend.
Yeah.
You're keeping a monkey prisoner in a studio.
He's a service animal.
You need to get your shit together.
Okay, you're going to talk to me about getting my shit together.
Okay.
Yeah, is that what that meeting is in there? Oh, what, it's the Association of Responsible Adults?
Yep, that's what it is.
Yeah, you got a DUI in Manhattan. Do you know how hard that is to do? Actually, you know what? In some ways, that's an accomplishment.
All right.
So...
Fine. Don't listen to me. Embarrass yourself.
Welcome, fellow survivors, to our first episode of the Why the Last Man podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're talking about the first episode of Why the Last Man, The Day Before. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow survivors. I am one of your other hosts, John.
And some of you might be asking, why? Where is Chris? I am here. That's not bad. Well, come on. I like that one. It was just on the nose.
That was
just
pretty
on the nose.
good.
Why
I'm going to have a lot of why jokes.
Why is Chris?
Why? Not even what or where. It's why. Why? Why do we have him on this podcast?
No, we never asked that. Chris. We've never asked that.
Some of our listeners might.
We are delighted to have you here with us for the Why the Last Man coverage, another brand new show that we're covering this year on TV Podcast Industries. If you're joining us for just the Why the Last Man podcast, make sure you subscribe to us over at tvpodcastindustries.com, where you'll get our 630 episodes? No, 610 episodes of the podcast so far, covering tons and tons of shows. You can find that just by searching TV Podcast Industries on any good or evil podcast player. You can also send us any feedback that you have on any of the shows that we're covering by emailing us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com.
Yes, so welcome to our new survivors, our fellow survivors, and of course, anyone who is returning from our other shows to listen into our discussions all about Why the Last Man. It's great to have you back as well.
Yes, great to have you with us. 3 episodes of Why the Last Man released on September 13th in the US on Hulu, also released on the 22nd of September on Star on Disney Plus. I can never get that right. Star on Disney Plus, because it's a weird kind of collection of shows that are adult skewed of the Disney Plus service in Europe. Isn't that right?
It's the additional ones they buy and all the Fox collection that they bought or Disney owned. Because the Big Mouse owns the old Fox.
And everything else.
Yeah, the Big Mouse owns quite a lot, actually.
I'm really happy to say that, because we wouldn't be getting Why the Last Man otherwise. So let's jump let's jump into the discussion about Why the Last Man. This is a show that's based on one of our favorite comic books, based on Why the Last Man, created by Brian K. Vaughn and Pia Guerra, ran for 60 issues, and is a complete story, telling the story end to end of this massive event and what happens to the world afterwards. So we are jumping onto the show really because we're all fans of the comic, right?
Definitely.
Correct. But don't worry. Don't let that put you off. If you are new to TV Podcast Industries and new to listening to us, we don't spoil. If something has a direct relevance to the comic books, we will not talk about that relevance until it has happened in the show. Because it may happen. They may not put it in episode 2. They may put it in episode 10 or 12 or 20. So we don't want to spoil something ahead of time. If something does happen or a character has been introduced in such a way that we think it's poignant to bring in some comic book history, we might bring some of that in through Comic Book Corner. I think, Derek, you read the comic book end to end recently?
Last month I finished the final 60 of this year. Great to reread the comics. There are some changes that needed to happen. It's been around for written about 20 years ago, the first issue. So there are some changes that needed to happen, but it is still a great story and still some really good things to read in the book. And I'm so glad to see this on TV and expanded. You know, we all know it. I'm really glad that you've you've said that, Chris, as well, about that we won't spoil future elements of the comic book, but there are definitely things that we're going to talk about in this first episode that we do need to mention that are different to the comic books. I'm sure we'll get into those as we go through our discussion about the episode. So yeah, welcome aboard. Let's talk about the show itself, the people behind the scenes. Showrunner for the show is Eliza Clark. She has written the first 2 episodes of the show. She worked in the sci-fi series Extent with Halle Berry and the Netflix remake of the TV series The Killing as well. The director of this episode is Louise Friedberg. Lots and lots of TV drama, including House of Cards and more recently The Right Stuff on National Geographic and Tell Me Your Secrets for Amazon Prime. Lots of work from Louise Friedberg. And again, working on the first 2 episodes of the show with Eliza Clark, which is quite cool. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis of the first episode of Y the Last Man the day before?
Sure. Representative Jennifer Brown has been towing the party line with US President Campbell, but she has had enough. When the president dismisses online abuse, Jennifer stresses how easy and privileged his life is, setting herself at loggerheads with him and his family. Her daughter, Hero Brown, an EMT with a DUI in New York, is dating yet another married man who is wrong for her. When the two get into an argument when he refuses to end his marriage, Hero accidentally kills him. Her younger brother, Yorick Brown, an escapologist with problems paying his rent, has decided to propose to his long-term girlfriend, Beth DeVille. Things don't go to plan as Beth aims to broaden her horizons with a teaching exchange to Australia. Beth leaves Yorick in his apartment with only his helper monkey, Ampersand, for company. Meanwhile, in Oklahoma, Agent 355 completes a mission and is sent to Washington to the president's side as a credible threat to his life has emerged. None of them realize the world is about to change for everyone. Without warning, every mammal with a Y chromosome on the planet gruesomely dies, leaving those with the X chromosome to pick up the pieces. That is, apart from Yorick Brown and his helper monkey, Ampersand.
Excellent stuff, John. Thanks for that. An interesting first episode because, I suppose we were expecting the big event. It's Why the Last Man is the name of the show. Something massive is going to happen in the episode and, an interesting structure to the episode. I think, setting up all of these connections and setting up what's going on in the world and then click your fingers and everything, falls apart, I suppose, at the end of the episode. Overall, guys, what do you think, of how the setup of the show was?
I really liked it, actually. I have to say, I just thought this was a really tense, slow build, from the opening and seeing, I guess, that event having taken place, but then just sort of intermingling with the characters, seeing their day-to-day lives and everyone's day-to-day lives. And, it is that just really nice contrast, isn't it, of everything going normal, and day-to-day lives happening, your wasted life, your successful life, your whatever it may be, and, just having the little hints at something being a little, crazy going on in the background, and just all the different parts, playing together. I thought it was really, really tense and a nice slow build.
Excellent.
And really liked it. I think even just to get that full episode of their background pretty much, I thought was good, because I think it really sets, the characters in the context of that life and seeing the change that happens.
Excellent. Anything else to add before we get into our general points about the episode, Chris?
Yeah, I not much more to add that. I think it's quite interesting that typically I'm looking at this as a kind of singular event, but to be fair, they dropped the first 3, both in the US and to be dropped on the same day in across the rest of the world in Europe. So, as a singular entity, this is an amazing, in my view, it's an amazing conspiracy-based type opening, which, as you said, is planting the seeds just enough to pique your interest in the background. It has a lot of heavy lifting of character work to do at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's any new show. You basically need to go, here's your main players, here's why you need to care about them, and while essentially building up to this catastrophic event without kind of, just dropping it in like the first second, kind of like, oh, there's a zombie. No. Okay, this is not about zombies, but I meant more a Walking Dead type comparison.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's talk about that as our first point for our discussion about the episode, for our chat about the episode, the event itself, I suppose. We knew it was coming. I do like that they started the episode in the aftermath of it. 3 weeks later, we have Ampersand and Y walking around New York, and Y's trying to find supplies. And I absolutely love that in that first moment we have that kind of relationship between Y and Ampersand, where Ampersand brings him back a pen and he goes, what am I supposed to do with this? And then we have the magic trick from Yorick to Ampersand putting his hand to his head as if he's really shocked about it. So you can see there's a little dynamic and a little fun little moment between these two characters who we're going to see side by side for the series, basically. So I think that's cool just to introduce those two characters and then to expand the world, to go back before the big event itself. What I really loved about the structure of the episode is I had no idea when the event itself was going to happen. When were all of the mammals with the Y chromosome, when were they all going to die? So what that meant was every time I saw two male characters together on screen, I was going, it's going to happen now. Yorick is teaching escapology to the kid, Freddie, and tells him to put on the straitjacket. And I was going, oh no, Yorick's going to be found in his apartment with dead Freddie in a straitjacket. Every scene had this little extra element of tension for me as you're thinking, oh, it's going to happen now. Oh no, it's now. You know, there's a scene with Nora where she takes up a gun standing beside the president, and I was going, uh-oh, president's going to die on the ground. Nora will have a gun in her hand and she's going to be blamed for murdering the president or something like that. It felt like it added so much tension to not know when the event was going to happen.
Yeah,
I do love that, for me anyway, allowed me to pay even more attention to what was going on in every scene, because I was expecting in a moment here something massive is going to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, you have the little breadcrumbs as well through the scenes, because it is actually happening. It's just happening to the animals beforehand. We have the dead deer, the dead mouse, the rats, and so there's all these little hints, and then the dog as well, which I think was, that was really sort of
tough to watch.
Yeah, it was tough to watch. It was really well done. I mean, I guess whatever about rats dying, I guess, or a mouse in a hotel room. It was how they did that with the dog sort of whining, man's best friend, that symbol of that, and then the blood coming out and you kind of his mouth. And that's the first time you actually see a Y chromosomed mammal, actually dying from it. All the others, they're already dead in situ and someone spots them. This is where you see it, and it's with man's best friend, and it's, it is really affecting. I thought that was quite, quite tough to watch. But it's the portent of what's to come. I think what was really nice about the opening as well, just, the pan back, after the helicopter has crashed down and Yorick is saved, Ampersand, I love the camera panning back up at this intersection with the skyscrapers, and there is the intersection as a Y, just to connect in with the title of the show. So that, I thought that was a nice little touch.
That was very cool. I know they did film some of the show in the pandemic, and I wonder if they got the opportunity to film that particular scene in the pandemic, because what a great opportunity to do something as cool as that during that.
Yeah, no, I can't say much more outside of what you guys have discussed. For me, it was that impending doom. Doom. It was just it was when we saw Kimberly, the president's daughter, and her children, and the three little boys and the husband, and then you see the mouse, and I'm like, they're gonna kill the kids right at that, like in front of you. I was like, oh, that's a bold move, Cotton. They didn't, and I was like, you missed a beat there. But of course, the children will die anyway because they are male.
And did you see the other little cue to that as well at their grandmother's party, at the First Lady's party? Both two of the older boys are lying flat out on their mother and grandmother while the speeches are going on, and you're going, oh, that's speaking to some event that's about to happen very, very soon.
Yeah.
I just overall, I absolutely adored. Let's talk about the actual event. So we talked about the lead up, the event itself. The way that we see it is through the eyes of Yorick's mother, Representative Brown, and the rest of the females in the Situation Room, or some form of it within the Pentagon. And then through a number of the other, so we see it from Hero, we see it from Nora. For me, Nora's event was not really an event, because they're essentially, and I do not to diminish her loss, but essentially that they died in bed. It's fine. Like, it was not. When you
Tell
see
that to Nora.
It's true. Sorry, I'm not. I'm not shaming her event, but what we see in the Situation Room, that stuff will stay with everyone.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're only ever going to see this once, so I was very happy with the way we saw some of the early screeners of this, and it was seeing I wasn't sure how they would, the virus or whatever it is that causes the death in the Y chromosomes. I was absolutely delighted with how they did it. And I know that sounds very morbid and stuff, but it was, you could have just had everyone cough, 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 keel over. But they added the effect of the hemorrhaging and the things like that, which really gave this visceral, gut-wrenching kind of event scene.
Absolutely. And as you say, Chris, this is something that we're only going to see once, so you might as well get it right on screen.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, unlike The Walking Dead, the threat next week isn't going to be that the zombies are going to attack you and forevermore there are zombies around or anything like that. It is very much the event has now happened. How does the world deal with it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's that they've got to pick up the pieces after the event. And I guess at some point that the realization that if nothing changes, that there is the gradual end of human life and male life, and female life on Earth, because there's no way for reproduction. Yeah,
exactly. So, yeah, it's a great way to start the series, a great moment. And I love that, as I say, the stress that's on the episode allows us to kind of focus on some characters and get some backstory that you didn't get in the comic books. In fact, the comic book was really concerned about setting up loads of possibilities for what could have caused the event. I think all of our major characters are doing something at the time of that opening issue of the comic book that they think is the reason that the event has happened. And it's only Yorick himself who isn't really doing anything at all and survives and goes, how the hell did I survive that? Basically,
exactly.
That's his whole arc. Everybody else is going, did I do it because I was doing such and such a thing?
Yeah.
Which isn't in here at all. There's no character in here is doing something that could have caused this event from happening.
No, exactly.
That we know of yet.
Exactly.
And that is the thing. I think they are going to string us along for quite a long period of time on this.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there was always the, underlying conspiracy through the comics, whether that was a perceived conspiracy or the what eventually unfolds within the comics. Yeah. But I think as well, Chris, to your point, I actually thought Nora's event was really good because the war room was amazing. But I loved the immediate contrast because actually it's happened and she doesn't know, and she's still trying to prepare the lunch for her kids. The daughter's playing around. She's, stressing because she's in a pretty, high stress, high level job being the aide and advisor, to, the president. And so I actually really liked the fact that was her day yesterday, probably, and it was the same thing that she was doing that day after the event had happened, because she was more thinking that her son and her husband were messing around, trying to stress her out even more. And I kind of liked that then they didn't show the full effect of that. It was her reaction to it. other than seeing blood on the pillow, from it coming out of the mouth.
And just screaming at her daughter to get out of the room so she isn't affected by it as well. I think it's really important, the reactions of what's going on, to learn more about these characters too.
Yeah, and I think similarly in the war room, seeing the very capable Agent 355 with her story and the lead up to that event, that there's elements of what she knows in being assigned to that war room at that time as one of the president's security agents.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
armed wallpaper, I think she describes.
Yes,
herself.
yeah, exactly.
That's a great description.
So yeah, I mean, the event was, I thought, really nicely captured, for sure here.
Well, excellent. We've started at the end. Anything else about the event we want to talk about before we go on to the big points from the episode that we enjoyed?
Nothing from my side. I kind of want to jump in.
Excellent. How about yourself, Chris? What was your the thing you enjoyed about the episode outside of the event, let's say?
So for me, it was the introduction to the very capable 355, Agent 355. That we see this. We're essentially shown this lady in what seems to be just, you're not quite sure what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of kissing her boyfriend, and you're like, oh, okay, well, this is just another pre-event setup of something. And then, oh no, she's making bombs? Mm-hmm. Okay. So she's making the bombs for him because he said he could do it but couldn't. So anyway, okay, what's something strange? Oh, some bad guys, okay, from out of town, okay. And she just slips out. And you're like, okay, maybe she's just going for a run.
She's going for a run, exactly.
Yeah.
Completely normal. And then we get the house blowing up, and it's just so... It is the epitome of that kind of WTF scene. It's like, what just happened?
That's not exactly what WTF stands for, but it's very close, Chris. Well done.
Thank you, yeah. Well, I'm trying to keep it PG here. But essentially it's that. It's you're seeing this badass then get into a car and just get zoomed off to her next mission.
Yep.
And being told, go clean yourself up, you're needed in Washington the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, okay, what is this, like CIA?
Yep.
You're trying to figure out what is happening. Who is this character? Because we've just given this name of Sarah later on as when she becomes the Secret Service agent.
Exactly.
And you're like, but is it 355? Is it Sarah? Like, who, what, where? And
I think this works equally well for new viewers and for people like ourselves who've read the comics. Like, I instantly knew that's 355. She has that kind of look about her.
Yeah.
We knew the casting of the actress who's playing the role. But the setting for it, I was looking at it going, oh no, they've really changed 355. She's introduced in the comic books in a really like James Bond action scene, effectively, is how she's introduced. Whereas here, she's sitting at home, making bombs there. It seems like a really dull character to begin with. She's with her boyfriend. And then I love the flip of it. Effectively, she is an undercover agent who's able to slip in and out of different situations. And it's so cool, seeing that version of 355, seeing exactly how she deals with this, and then walks on to her next mission, which happens to be going from a small house in Oklahoma building bombs for an extremist group to standing right beside the president, as I say, armed wallpaper. The contrast of those two things is really interesting about the character, and I think makes you really intrigued about what's going to happen with her in the season.
Yeah, I mean, and because there is, and again, it's part of that conspiracy element that introduced that there is a credible threat to the POTUS, effectively. And I thought this was a great introduction. I loved Agent 355 in the comics, and this just, I just think she's picture perfect from the comics.
Yeah.
And I just the attitude, and the look, I think it's just been so well sort of cast here.
Yeah.
And again, as you say, just so well introduced, with the, the switcheroo of, okay, what's she doing to being just really a badass agent here, to the extent that, she would be, posted with the president in her next assignment. So this was great for me. Really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Also, one thing you did mention, that the credible threat towards the president, we do hear, I think I had to put on the subtitles to catch it exactly what was happening, but the threats coming out of Israel, that's what they say just before the president dies. So, keep that in mind for a later episode. But interesting to see. There you go. There you go. Anything else about 355, Chris, in this first episode?
No, I cannot argue with what you guys have said. I really want to, just for the fun of it.
Don't argue with us, Chris.
No. She is a picture perfect casting. It really is. And I actually want to even go as far as the majority of the characters and the actors throughout this have been just spot on casting.
Yeah.
And where it differs, it seems to be the right reasons. So yeah,
absolutely.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think I'll probably, I was going to deal with that in my wrap up for the episode. But one of the things that's really important about Why the Last Man, the comic book, is an event happens and then you're spending time with all of these characters for the entire 60 issues. So it's really important that you eventually get to like the characters. They start off grey or black and white, and you get to learn more about them over the series. And what Brian K. Vaughn and Pia Guerra did in the comic book was nail those characters that you wanted to spend time with and wanted to learn their stories. I'm really hopeful that the show's going to continue that trend effectively, have really good characterization, so you'll want to stick around with those characters. So far, I think they've done a pretty good job.
I agree. John, what is your top moment for this episode?
Well, I guess I'm taking the biggie. It's Yorick, and I guess it's the picture perfect. I have to say, Ben Schnetzer, I loved him in this role, and I've read the comics, but it is a while ago now, and I haven't reread them in preparation for this. But one of my abiding memories is Yorick in this as effectively the loser, accident prone magician. I kind of just related to him, I think, because he was a bit of a nerd, and he was weedy. I'd say the only thing is he's probably not as weedy here as he is in the comics, but I think Ben Schnetzer really captures Yorick here, and no more so than the disastrous proposal to his expectant fiancée, Beth. I just loved this. I loved the fact that he was schmoozing her with a grilled cheese sandwich.
3 cheeses, John.
3 cheeses. Which she was devouring. I mean, she absolutely was loving it, with a bottle of wine.
It is comparative though, isn't it? If you're having a romantic date with somebody, if they compare the meal you've cooked to them to everything you've cooked before, that's what's important.
Exactly.
So perhaps Yorick had only ever used one type of cheese on bread, and this time he toasted it and had 3 slices of cheese.
Yeah, and he had put a tomato in there as well. Yeah. So it really sort of pimped out that grilled cheese sandwich. But I loved the whole setting of it. I loved the idea that he was, talking about ampersand and that it was a service animal, and it was just really, really nice. But then ultimately, I think it was with the build up that we see with him. In order to buy that cheese for the grilled cheese sandwich, he's got to go to his sister, who's at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, to look for money. And she comes out with a great line for describing Yorick, which is, you can't buy cheese, but you want to marry your girlfriend. It's kind of what's your aim in life? What's the goal, other than the magic show, which in the apartment gets chucked to one side very rapidly because he's proposing to someone who he knows is about to head off on a teaching exchange to Australia. And she, it's all arranged and booked. She's going the next day.
Yeah.
And it all kind of breaks down from there. It's not just bad timing. It's the fact that Yorick has no sense of himself in the world. We were talking about this, how can you describe Yorick? Is that it's more than he's self-aware, but he's not self-aware of himself in whether it's a group, the local community or the wider world.
Yeah.
And this is part of him. It's like, what's his priorities? It is ultimately as well partly down to the privilege that his parents pay his rent. He can
only when he needs it though.
He can like take a long time to figure out his magic show, because his priorities are completely different, because they're not as such financial, which I guess a lot of people do, but it's that sense of himself and how he behaves in the world. And that's something I absolutely loved from the comics. I thought it was really sort of great idea that, this character, the sole surviving mammal, I guess, or human with a Y chromosome at least, is just that. It's like, it probably wouldn't want to be if he was asked, would you like to be the last person on Earth? And I love that then, this all kind of coalesces around his argument with Beth before she leaves, because she just asks the question, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? His sister has said the same thing. What are you doing?
Yeah. I love when he says that to her. He's like, I'm going to propose to my girlfriend. He's like, why would you do it? Oh, you don't like Beth? No, I love Beth. Why are you trying to get engaged to her?
Exactly. It all just sort of descends, as the proposal gets worse, and ultimately, off they go. But I just thought this was a really great setup for Yorick.
Yeah.
He's even saying to her, you think I'm a mess and don't know what I'm doing. He knows that, that people think about that. He's, I guess, perceived as a loser. He's loved by his family, he's loved by Beth, but ultimately, there's a lot of judgment on him because of just how he chooses to live his life and how he is able to. Yeah. But it's that lack of awareness of situations and of others, ultimately.
Exactly.
And
it's not like he's living in a lap of luxury or anything like that, but I do love that he's having that conversation with Beth, and he's basically going, everybody tells me that I don't know what I want, but what I want is you. And it's like, you're not reading the social cues that tell you need to have something more of a plan in your life than, I need you to complete me. Well, no, you need to also have something of yourself as well in some direction too.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of, I guess, maybe a bit of stunted maturity to some extent, but it's like, because Beth is saying, you'll blame me for being bored and then blame yourself that I couldn't meet other people. And then his response is, to meet other people, oh, maybe you're going to meet the Hemsworth or something. And it's just really good because it's like, that's not what she's saying, but it's just so nicely done.
It might be. It certainly is just.
Well, it could be. Yeah, exactly. But, I loved this whole thing. Yeah. Just the different elements that played into it, as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. Great little moment in this episode.
Yeah, really, really good.
Yeah, I want to see how they evolve the character.
Yeah.
Because there definitely is an evolution of the character within the comic books. So I'll be interested to see where this character ends up at the end of season 1.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that along with some of the other characters will kind of dictate the affection people find for this show.
Absolutely, and especially to see how quickly they're going to evolve the character, because he doesn't evolve for probably about 40 issues of the comic book. So will they evolve him a little bit quicker on the TV show or not? It would be an interesting question to ask. One tiny note about that is, this is a significant change from the characters of Yorick and Beth.
Yes.
In the comic books, in the comics, Yorick proposes to Beth over Skype, while she's in Australia. So she hasn't gone to Australia, yet. And so I think even the actual event happens while he's on the call to her and he doesn't hear her answer, to the proposal. So, that'll be quite interesting, to see how she plays out in the show. We already saw in that opening scene that he's running around tagging buildings with Beth, I'm still alive. So he is still looking for her, but, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the show. The fact that she's still on US soil.
Yeah, definitely. Derek, what's your top moment?
Really, for me, it was everything with Representative Brown. Didn't see a huge amount of that character in the comic books, but I knew she was going to be really important in the TV show, given her position. She is at the highest levels of government. She has interaction with the president of the US. So, of course, you're going to expand that storyline. And when you put someone like Diane Lane in the role, you're absolutely going to expand the role to accommodate someone that's as good as she is. I just really love her really tough exterior, that the indications that they have to that, where she's challenging the president because of his views on there is no such thing as hate speech online. Well, that's because he's a privileged guy who never gets attacked online, whereas walk a mile in my shoes kind of thing is the attitude. But I love that she also has the other side of her, where her aide is beside her, showing her the presentation that she's going to be giving, and she realizes her nails are chipped and tells the aide to go across the road, get that sorted out, because I've been in this business for 20 years and I've attacked from all sides. I know even the littlest thing that I do wrong will be taken apart. And that's been her life for so long. And I really love that kind of setup of the character of Representative Brown. The things she's going to have to deal with after the event happens, after everybody dies, the things she's going to have to deal with are way more important than all the things she's dealing with here, the tit for tat of politics that's been going on. But it's all of these elements show how strong she is and all the things she's had to deal with. I also love this idea as well, that she is in the line of succession to a president who she's just fought with the day before he died. And everybody else in the lines of succession is gone, leaving the path open for her to become president and to lead everything that's going on in the country. So I think that's really interesting. She seems to be somebody that everybody looks up to in the whole system. Everybody looks to her and try and get guidance from her. So I think that's all really interesting in here. But she does have her challenges. She has been having arguments with quite a lot of people as well. So I just wanted to highlight, I suppose, her story from this episode.
You also see the loss on her face when we hear the quick discussion with her husband.
Yeah. So
she goes so quickly as well. She switches from, this is great, maybe we should consider getting back together. I'm not apologizing, but this is something we can think about, to apparently they're going to get a divorce and file right there later that week. Exactly. To going in to confront the then president pretty quick. And you see it happen so quickly. It's definitely interesting.
Yeah. It was a nice switch of her outside on the terrace, to then seeing her back in the room, listening to, the platitudes and the speeches for the First Lady event, and just, that kind of isolated figure in that room. Mm-hmm. She's just had a bit of a Barney with her husband, that they're separated. Yeah. And as well, there's a separation in that room because of what she has effectively called the president earlier in the day with the TV crew, that he's a misogynist, and she's in that room with his wife and his daughter, Kimberly, who, again, it is an interesting character. I mean, we just see her here with the, kind of the self-help guru element with the two books, Cancel Culture and Boy Mum, and, the notion, that we're raising our boys, not to be men, and to keep them afraid. And you can see that this is going to be an interesting, element here, as, she survives the big event. So, I thought that was, a nice, part of this. And certainly when she's there, you can feel the tension between these two, even at the party, as, just before she, runs away with the absolutely fantastic line of, one of my boys is double fisting the desserts. It was just really good.
That is not a handful. Also, just one other little moment as well with the president, where he's saying to Representative Brown, or Jennifer Brown, we've worked together for 15 years, I think he says, and you've never once played the woman card with me. And you just see the reaction from Jennifer Brown, knowing this is something that she's never going to want to do with this guy again. This is it. That is the end of their relationship. So I think that's a really interesting moment where she's just kind of going, yeah, I didn't do that, but you've gotten all the benefit of everything you've eked out of my supporters and everything you've eked out of using me to get to the position you're at. This is it. She is effectively going to be running for president in 2.5 years' time.
Definitely. I thought it was also the nice little interaction, the silent interaction to begin with when Nora is reading out what she said. And it's quite aggressive in terms of the way she's looking at Jennifer Brown. The unspoken, I guess, loyalty to the president and animosity to Jennifer, who had spoken those words.
Yeah.
And you can really get that sense of tension between the two ladies.
Absolutely.
But just then, the bite back from Jennifer just towards the end, after Nora has finished the speech, and, this whole discussion has sort of spread out. I just thought it was really nicely done, for sure.
Excellent.
So, gentlemen, do you have any other notes that you want to kind of touch on from this episode?
One note that I did take was just the full names of the books that Kim is talking about. I just wanted to read the full name of one of the books. One of them, you're absolutely right, is called Boy Mom. The other one that's on the other side that she's not there to promote, but is also on sale at bookstores that these particular ladies might be going to, is in full called Cancel Culture and the Death of Conservative Dignity, which is really on the nose for this character, showing you exactly who she is. I just thought that was really interesting. I know we haven't talked about Hero Brown in this episode, and she does form a major part of the episode, but I'm sure we're going to talk about her quite significantly in the next episode, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the big thing just to mention is, on any other day, she would be charged with manslaughter.
Yep.
So there is a nice streak of luck with her, in this moment that her, in fending off her love fling, who is married, with a fire extinguisher, and killing him, that any other day, there would be a manslaughter charge, certainly, and luckily that the event just clicked in just before the police officer could cuff her as well, because otherwise she could have found herself in cuffs. Yeah. I guess.
Yeah, the officer is like knocking on the door. He's about to jump up and look in the window, and then she hears him fall to the ground. Yeah, it is literally she's about to get caught by the police. So, yeah.
Then she would definitely have to find Yorick so that he could actually bust her out of them, or at least use the key to unlock them herself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I will talk more about Hero throughout this season. I like that they're setting up that she has an anger problem. She's in AA, court mandated AA, based on some of her problems.
Yeah, that's a weird thing to do. I never understood sending someone to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, which is surrounded by people who are trying to get help. It's such a weird dynamic that's I think only around in the US. Just like EMTs that don't actually travel around in their ambulances, that use them for extracurricular activity while on the clock.
Yeah, exactly. While sitting just in that station, that's just they're waiting. We'll speak more about it, but I like that they're setting up as the very much, unlike all the others, the flaws in these characters. And in Hero, like her brother, is more flawed than others. They set it up in that way, like that these are very problematic children, or children with problems, compared to the overly successful mother. Even their father, who is successful in his own right, just not as successful as the mother, but that come out later. So yeah, there we have it. That is all the notes, I think.
I think so. Yeah. Overall, guys, any final thoughts about the episode? What do you think of the premiere? We kind of talked about it a little bit already, but what do you think of the premiere overall, John? Yeah,
I loved it. I really enjoyed the build up here. I thought it was tense, and I liked the pacing of it. I would give it 4.5 double fisting desserts out of 5. To be honest, if only those desserts.
That's 9 out of 10.
Yes, 9 out of 10. Ultimately, however you want to spin it. Yes, it's 9 out of 10. Or it's 18 out of 20. You name it.
No, I just meant because it's 2 double.
Well, that is true.
Double fist.
Yes.
So
okay. Yes.
A single 4.5 single fists out of 5, or 9 out of 10 double fists.
Well, yes, exactly. I loved, I really liked this introduction. I thought Yorick was, really likable. I think it fitted really well. And Agent, 355. I love, Diane Lane. I've always enjoyed seeing Diane Lane. And she's just really good in this role as, Representative Brown, Jennifer Brown. And then just, it playing out all the lovely contrasts with the normal life and the event. It was a really, solid, good opening episode.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I think my biggest compliment for this was it was really giving me the feelings of The Leftovers, which is one of my favorite shows, this idea of an event happening and what happens to the world after the event happens. But this time we actually saw what happened to everybody, whereas in The Leftovers, it's just a click your fingers and half the world disappears, or 20% of the world disappears. So I got a little bit of gruesome in there as well, because I'm also a horror fan. How about yourself, Chris? Any final thoughts?
Not much. Strong open. More just because they kept you guessing of when the event will happen. And I think as the story unfolds, I'm hoping more and more people will kind of be drawn into these characters because they put a lot of time set up on these characters. So I'm hoping that the overall stories kind of start to pay off.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Whole world to play with now. A brand new one at that. Excellent. So let's pop over to get some feedback from our wonderful fellow survivors. Over at our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV podcast industries. I put up some spoiler posts for each of the episodes. If you want to leave any thoughts about the episodes, pop on over there and we'll read them out on the podcast. First up, Deanna Brian Maskell says, "Oof, that was a lot. I hope I'm up for this journey as it offers so many interesting ideas and characters to explore. First episode really gave us reasons to invest in these core characters and I need to know more." Excellent, Deanna.
Yeah, thanks, Deanna. I think you're right. The exploration of this situation after the event, has loads of different ways it can go. And, that's with Pierre Guerra and Brian K. Vaughn, the creators of this, it's just, they could go in so many different directions. And it's a great ride in that sense. So, really, thanks for the feedback, Deanna. Also on our Facebook group, Ronaldo says, "What an opening episode. The setup was solid. I like the actor who plays Yorick, has a likable nature. What was really sad for me were the deaths of the children and when the husband and the son of the aide to the president were found dead in bed. It was a very emotional moment. So much chaos, so bleak, but hoping as the series progresses, we get glimpses of hope." Thanks, Ronaldo. I think that emotional moment with the president aide finding a husband and a son dead in bed, I thought it was just really very emotional, but also just that contrast with seeing the actual event happening in the war room with these grown politicians, army generals and men. I think certainly there will be glimpses of absolute hilarity in this world, as much as glimpses of hope. Because I think the interesting thing here with the show is that unlike there has been a apocalyptic event, but there is everyone else with the X chromosome has still survived. And so, that is just the great thing about this concept, to see how they pick up the pieces. How do they, the challenges that will come on the new administration. So, really, I think there will be hope there, for sure.
I hope so. One of the things I always stress about the comics is there is a lot of comedy in them. So there are a lot of comedic situations. So I'm intrigued if they can at least incorporate that into the show as well.
I hope so.
Thanks, Ronaldo.
Yep, thanks, Ronaldo. Over on Facebook, still, we have feedback from Victor Von Doom. He said, "I love the drama setup so far. I'm a big Diane Lane fan. I just ordered the first compendium novel, so I'll be playing catch up for a while. Don't go too fast. Make sure you enjoy the TV and the comic book in the same go. Enjoy the run." That would be my advice.
Yeah. I know a lot of people that watch long-term series like Walking Dead picked up the comics after the first season of the show to get them through the break between the first season and second season. That's a great way to do it too.
Yeah, good stuff, Victor.
Thanks, Victor. Finally, on Facebook, Wendy Odd Empress says, I watched the first episode and I am in. My husband is too. Diane Lane is always amazing and I really liked a lot of the other characters in the show as well. Excellent, Wendy. Hopefully you're going to join us for our podcast every episode that we're covering.
Yeah, good stuff, Wendy. I think the characters here, I think, just great setup episode for them to blossom in the rest of this series.
Absolutely. Finally, for feedback on our first episode, we have a voicemail from Steve Brown, who gives us one of his first live Steve reactions to the episode.
Hey guys, it's Steve, and I'm about to watch the first episode of Why the Last Man? No, it's not Why the Last Man, it's Why the Last Man. I don't think I've ever done a live Steve for y'all, so hopefully we'll keep it short. Oh, dead animals. I know some people, they're not going to like that. Hey, this was the last man, and he's got a monkey. Oh, and he's leaving notes, spray painted for someone named Beth. I need to make a comment here, because I'm confused about something. Why is he wearing the gas mask part of the time? Like, the point of a gas mask is you either need it all the time or you don't need it at all. And those things are freaking uncomfortable. I've been in one for like 6 hours during exercises. Diane Lane is so beautiful. I'm just saying. Hey, Sky, I took Oklahoma. I live in Oklahoma. And I love Bad Company. Dang, she just blew those guys up. Oh no, dude, this is so the wrong moment. Even I, who've never been married, can tell this is not the right moment. Okay, I'm starting to figure out some of the connections between these characters, but I'm still a little confused because I've only watched it once, or this time. Seriously, they're having sex in an ambulance when they're on duty. This fight escalated quickly. Oh, man, she's got to find her kids and her husband, and all the men are just dropping dead. And there we have Yorick, the last man. All right, I'll try to tighten up the next one's a little bit long. Sorry. Talk to you later.
Do not apologize, Steve. That was amazing.
That was so
It was like we were in the room with you.
I feel so privileged to hear the reactions as you went through it.
Yeah.
Love it. Oh my God, she killed those guys. Excellent. Excellent stuff. Yeah, we didn't really mention the gas mask that Yorick's wearing walking around the city. It's actually, I think, the cover of the first comic book has Yorick with the gas mask. So it's a really iconic, view of the character. The reason he's wearing it is because he's the last man alive. He has to get around some way without people knowing who he is. So he does get a gas mask and covers himself up. And when he feels like nobody's watching, he takes off the gas mask because, as you say, it's massively uncomfortable to wear.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
And I mean, we do see gas masks being used in the war room as well initially.
Yeah.
But I think for Yorick, it's more about just covering up his identity.
Yeah, it's really a great way that he won't be questioned about his identity wearing that, because you'd expect lots of people would wear gas masks walking around the city after this massive event, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, lovely stuff, Steve. Thank you so much for the live, Steve. They're really good to get your thoughts and reactions there on episode 1 of Why the Last Man.
Yes, thank you, Steve. And yes, they did have sex in a van while on duty. There you go. Any EMTs who listen to us, do you? Is that, I'm assuming there's a health and safety risk here, just in general.
I'm sure there are, but there are beds in the back of it for the most part. So, hey, why not? If you are an EMT and want to send us your thoughts, you can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, or you can email us if you're not an EMT as well, of course, at that address. You can join us on our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries, or hey, follow us over on Twitter at tvpodindustries.
If you like what you hear and you are interested in some of our other shows, we are currently covering all season 1 of What If over on Disney Plus. Yes, every week we basically record our thoughts on what if a certain thing happened, and it's quite fun. It's enjoying. If you like any of the other Marvel shows, you can go back. As Derek said, there are 600 odd episodes of all the shows, of all the films, of everything in between. It is there. You will enjoy it.
Yeah, 600 very odd episodes. And I suppose if you like a show where the premise is, what if every mammal with a Y chromosome dies? You'll probably like What If from Marvel as well. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Talk to you again next time.
Yep, speak to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, fellow survivors, for joining us in our discussions of Why the Last Man, episode 1. We'll be back with episode 2 very, very soon. But until then, keep watching, keep listening, and keep surviving.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.